Hey folks, that was a new version of Splits at the End of the Universe, a demo I did way back when before a lot of the stuff was even working, and I sort of implemented it in Splat in the last couple of weeks and did a run. That is a 9-day simulation that we just looked at there at varying speeds of time lapse. And I wanted to use it today to talk about cellular automata architectures, and because there's a couple of things that are important about cellular automata that are widely used that I think are a little bit misleading and they cause trouble. And so I thought it would be opportune time to kind of maybe go through one of them, and that's the idea that, so a cellular automata is this spatially distributed array of computing elements that talk just locally to each other. And the question comes up, well, what happens when you reach the edge of the array? Because there's going to be an edge somewhere. And what typically people do is they wrap the east and west edges around and connect them to you. So when you head out the edge in one direction, you come right back in the other way, and the same thing with the north and south edges. You wrap them around, so you end up making what, if you, in your mind anyway, it's like a tube, and then the tube is connected to itself, so it's like a donut. It's a torus shape, and I spent years doing that sort of stuff as well. It makes a whole lot of sense. If you want to focus on the rules that a sort of individual little agent, a little being is using in the middle of a vast expanse of open space, you don't want to have to care about special cases for the edges. But one of the things that has come home more and more clear to me over the years, especially starting focus on indefinite scalability, the idea of, this array might not be fixed. It might be this big now, but it might get bigger later. And we've seen some demos in the T2sday updates where that is exactly what happens. The size of the simulated array, the size of the underlying cellular automata grows as the same thing is running. So that's not the only problem that the donut architecture, the torus shape, has. The other problem is that you say, okay, I just want to simplify things and focus on the main event. But the problem is that cellular automata structures, they often tend to grow. And in fact, we like it when they do because it's kind of cool and a more complicated structure coming out of some simpler beginning. The problem is once it grows to be more than the size of whatever actual array you have, now part of its own structure comes back and starts running into itself. And an awful lot of the cool demos that you can see in cellular automata land living on the donut, what you're actually seeing, importantly, what you're actually seeing is the pattern essentially interfering with itself as it goes around and around and does whatever it does. And that, in fact, that behavior would not happen in a real world array that has edges or just keeps going on indefinitely, as if that was possible. So one of the things that we've been doing seriously in the T2 tile project is to try to be an advocate for edges. Edges are a good thing. Figuring out what your creatures, your beings are going to do when they run into an edge is an inherent part of the system design. It cannot just be swept away as a minor detail. Sorry, no donut. And the splits at the end of the universe demo is meant to drive that home. You see, because the way it works, what we just saw, so you pick a random direction and a random color, and you just keep going in that direction as long as you can. As long as there's space at all, you swap with whatever is ahead of you. And only when you actually get to the point where there's some kind of edge that you cannot go any further, you pick a new random direction, and you also pick a random neighbor around you. And if that neighbor is empty, you split. You make a new U with a new random direction, a new random color in this new version, and off it goes. And so if we had used the donut architecture for splits at the end of the universe, what would have happened? We would have had one guy, one being, going around and around and around in whatever direction it went forever and ever and ever, completely boring because it doesn't do anything unusual until it reaches the end of the universe. But instead, what happens here is The universe fills up solely as a result of interactions between the edges of the universe, and you get these long-range structures of, picking. If you go into a corner and you pick a random direction, if you head into a wall, you'll just bounce again, or if you head into the other wall, you'll just bounce again. So there's only up and over and diagonal out that's possible, and you get these huge flows of traffic going in various directions. There's additional details on exactly how the colors work in this sort of thing. And then, of course, splits at the end of the universe eventually fills up all empty space. The only way it fills empty space is when it gets to the edge of the universe, it tries to pick a new direction and finds an empty site there. So it gets slower and slower and slower as the universe gets more and more full. But eventually, in principle, it would fill the last empty space, and then everybody would just be moving around and swapping over each other till kingdom come. Except not here, because the simulation engine that we're using is still fragile. We've got to fix it. Okay, that's the rant demo for today. Got a bunch of other stuff. Let's go fast. So yeah, splits at the end of the universe, next generation. I'm going to try to get an annotated version up on T2 demos before our next update. We'll see what happens. All right, we got research, development, outreach. The research front is, trying to rebuild the engine so that it won't be fragile in the way that we saw. That was pretty spectacular, wasn't it? The splits at a whole bunch of the grid would reboot because it got some, well, not reboot, the engine would restart because it got some horrible error, but there was enough splitting at the end of the universe beans around to start reinfecting because the whole thing didn't crash at once. And they actually managed to survive by dodging and bouncing and dodging and bouncing. Anyway, at first I was thinking I could just use a GitHub branch, a software thing to separate it, but it's hard because in addition to having a separate piece of software on one tile that I'm developing on, it's got to be able to spread to a bunch of other tiles in a little local neighborhood, because the whole point of this is to work on intertile stuff. So what I thought I would do was I was going to make a new keymaster. The keymaster tile that we've seen, it's the white one, is the one that actually has the crypto private key on it, so that it can generate packages that will get propagated by the common data manager out to an arbitrary grid. And so the idea was, I'm having a lot of fun running on the fragile grid. I don't want to give that up. I don't want to take the keymaster that we've got and nuke it, but I need to be able to nuke something. So the idea was to create the blue keymaster, because I had this nifty blue case. Unfortunately, I went through 2 tiles installing them in the blue case before realizing that there's, in permanent, all kinds of little teeny bumps inside the thing that cause it to push down on the touchscreen. So the touchscreen never works with the blue keymaster. So that was the end of that brilliant idea. Instead, we have the gold keymaster, which hopefully, yeah, here we can see. So it's not even really gold. I just used the gold Sharpie pen to make it be gold. And the idea is that this is going to be the one that we'll do the new development on, and the old original keymaster, the white one, will just continue to be doing for demos and so on and so forth. And my plan at first was just to have, take the private key that this guy was using and leave it there, and then put a different private key on the gold keymaster, and otherwise let everything go through. But in fact, that turned out to be a problem. So at first I was right. So I was just commenting out the name of the old private key and inserting the new one, gold keymaster. But that one didn't work, because now, I was only trying to change one package, the MFM engine itself. But if I didn't have the original other key in it, then all the other packages were rejected during propagation. So what I really needed was to have 2 different keys that would both be recognized, but have only one of them that was on the gold keymaster, and the white keymaster would not know about the other one at all, and therefore packages signed by the gold keymaster would not propagate. And it turned out, I had actually implemented that. You're right. So this was the problem, that all the packages were getting dumped because they had the wrong key. But there was already support for having multiple keymasters, so now we've got the T2 keymaster. That's the original one that the white keymaster is using, and the gold keymaster has its own separate one. And it took a few little places in the code to fix it up, but now it seems like I can actually, really mess up the code. So for example, so this one, this is still running a Hugene because I haven't killed anything yet, but this guy. Right, he's running a splits at the end of the universe. All right, so see there he goes, bounced off, created a whole bunch. Splits at the end of the universe fills up space really fast because there's no reason why it can't. When it tries to bounce, there's lots of empty space, but then it immediately hits the wall, tries to create another one, and so forth. All right, we'll let these guys go. So that is the research front. The development side of things, it's just crazy. I'm calling the research front the software stuff at this point, and the development side is working on the grid. And last time when we built this risers to support to bring the grid up higher, after I got it all set up, I slid it over into the corner, into the position where it would actually go once there's 7 lotuses, but we only have 2 lotuses at the moment. And so a couple of days later, it was like in the middle of the night, it was like saying, well, I want to set up to do another run with the camera, see if I can get another good time lapse. I need to slide it back a little bit. So I slid it back a little bit, and the pipe dropped out of the ceiling like that, and the whole thing crashed, and it was a mess. It actually, I don't know if you can really see it. It scraped up the bookshelf cabinets, multiple bookshelf cabinets, as all this stuff came down. This was my my Kleenex box. The Kleenex box got basically sawed through by the edge of the hangers that had all those zigzag things on it, and they got pretty well beaten up as well. I've got some of them here. They just they shattered. Like that. However, none of the tiles were damaged, as far as I can tell. They all booted. They all seem to work. All the intertile connections still make intertile connections. The framework took the hit like it was supposed to, so that was nice. And this is what it looks like now. That whole upper right-hand corner, that was the part that slid down. Those things, they just got smashed. The connectors that go around, the hooks that go around the rod are okay, but there's the hangers are going to have to be replaced. But it's been sitting like that. That 9-day run that we saw was like this, with those hangers missing. So that's the development story. Oh, and then it would be nice if this wouldn't happen again. So it was time for a little 3D printing stuff. Now, it could have been solved by, just ordering a piece from the outside world, but why bother? It seems like I had the ability to do it. So I just, made one of these little things up, printed it up, maybe it took 2 or 3, I guess it took 3 tries, and there it is. So it's just a little sleeve that goes around the thing and wangs down hard. That's really not going to move. So that now, if you try to slide it to the left, the collar bounces off of the the riser on the left-hand side and keeps it from moving. If you want to go left, you've got to lift it up and go over. So now it's anchored in both directions. Hallelujah. All right. That's the development story. Yes, 2 updates ago, we we all saw. I submitted this little science fiction story, Search Quiet Wake, to Asimov Science Fiction magazine. They said our average response time 5 weeks. You should expect a quick response. And in the last update, I had this slide that it was under review, and I was saying, expectation management probably shouldn't probably expect it's like, not less than a 50% chance, like it's odds off, you got to be prepared. Well, it was only a few days after the last update that this arrived in the mailbox. Although it does not suit the needs of the magazine at this time, good luck. So there it is. And that really kind of hurt. I had managed to convince myself that, this is such a, nifty little story and so forth. And my big problem, of course, with talking about this at all, on the one hand, is, it's all sort of pitiful and embarrassing from one point of view. But the other point is that, our tiny little community that we have here that's trying to do this stuff with folks that watch the videos, come check it out, participate in some fashion or another. Almost nobody's read the story, so it's really sort of okay, he's talking about another thing I still haven't had a chance to see. So I'm sorry about that, and I'm going to kind of shut up about it. I think after like today, we'll see how it goes. But, I actually managed to convince myself that even though I said it was less than a 50% chance, maybe it was like a 45% chance, But the fact, and looking around and seeing how these things actually tend to work, the fact that it was like 17 days, like 2.5 weeks, what that tells me is that, it didn't even make the second read queue. Apparently, stuff that just comes in the front door, someone reads, takes a look at them and gets rid of as many as they can, and only the ones that actually seem interesting in some way go on and get read again. And, so, and again, I hadn't really thought about this either, that, the quicker the answer is, the more likely it's going to be a no. So, this was a pretty quick reply, which I said I wanted, number one. And number two, there was no feedback at all. Except for the fact that they got the title of the story right. And I've had scientific papers rejected from conferences and workshops before and so forth. And I've participated in review panels that have rejected things, and I know, number one, it's an incredibly noisy process. And number two, it's just part of the game. But at least in the scientific communities, you're sort of obligated to say something. And a lot of times the reviews are pretty perfunctory and not all that informative, but they do exist. So that made me sad. I didn't even get to the level of a comment about why. So, I took my 72 hours of just thinking about other stuff. I self-medicated with some shopping. Okay, so I got over it. Going forward, what I think I want to do is I want to try at least one more time. I can't let Asimov's beat me for, just one outing. So the idea is, I think, try one more time to actually send it someplace. And if still don't get any luck, then somehow self-publish. I'm not sure exactly what that would mean. Just put up on a website, Patreon, make a little book out of it and put it up on Amazon. I don't know. But we'll jump off that bridge when we get to it. And so what do you think? I mean, I could just turn it around and send it to Analog, or send it to the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, the top 3. But, I'm thinking, maybe that's a little bit, embarrassing. Maybe an unpublished author with, this crazy story that is, it's a little hard to get into. You have to be willing to identify with things that you don't often identify with to really make it go. And then, there are other structural issues to it as well. But here's the thing. There's a bunch of things of venues, outlets for science fiction that count as real, and if I get accepted by one of those, and there's a spectrum of them, then I can become an associate member of the Science Fiction Writers of America, the SFWA. And I've been part of professional associations as an academic over the years, engineering societies and scientific stuff and so on. And they're good to some degree. They're good for networking to some degree, and they're kind of a racket to some degree as well. But this would be a new racket, so I thought it would be fun to try to do that. So we'll see. So I'm kind of thinking maybe let Analog, let Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction go and look for something farther down that still qualifies as a publication for purposes of the SFWA. What do you think? you know, blinded by the dream. When I talk to other people, and I'm kind, at least if I'm not, cranky for some reason, I can sort of understand where people are coming from, and help people see things clearly. But when it comes to my own stuff, that doesn't work because I've got this dream that we can do a whole new kind of way of computing that would be more robust, it would be better for society, it'd be more interesting, it would be more a better model for how we think and exist. It would be all kinds of good things in principle, but it doesn't exist at all, and I'm trying to will it into existence, and I have been for decades now. Uh, um, and that means I don't have an accurate view of the world. Stuff that might work, I want to push the odds up and think that the odds are more than negligible. And stuff that I don't like, I want to think, oh yeah, people are going to be figuring out that's a bad idea really soon now. And so this was a little reminder that the world out there is the world out there, and when you have a dream, that's what you sign up for. So it hurts sometimes, but I am bent but not broken. We're going to keep on pushing. Well, it's a full court press at this point. We're going to keep on pushing all the possible ways we can and see how far we go. So anyway, that's the outreach story for this update, and I guess that is actually about it. Failed to welcome the nerds again. These are the same goals as last time. Have made progress. The GDRO user space spikes. The path is now open to that because we have the gold keymaster and so forth. I have got some other stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks. In particular, I'm gonna do a panel discussion on self-organization. I think it might be 1 week from today, February 22nd. I don't have all the exact details yet and so forth, but it's associated with the guy Yosha Bach. I think that's the name. Who was the one who called me, the Bob Ross of computer models or something like that. So he invited me to do this thing, so I said yes. So we'll see. And I've got some scientific writing deadlines and stuff coming up early in March as well. So it's gonna get a little busy for a while. But I am enjoying being able to run these demos and catch another one. I have a whole nother one that I wanted to talk about, but I think I'm going to save it for next time. And so I'll stop here. And again, folks, thank you for participating at whatever level you can. I hope things are going all right with you. We're doing okay. And I hope to see you next time.